Most medical residents and fellows have heard they should consider disability insurance at some point during their training. This episode is about slowing that conversation down and helping physicians understand how it all works, what their options are, and how to make informed decisions early in their careers. Today, I'm joined by Steve Crawford, and I'm genuinely excited about this conversation. Steve is one of the most enthusiastic and knowledgeable people in the country when it comes to disability insurance during training, and particularly around guaranteed standard issue GSI programs. He began his career working directly with physicians and became the #1 agent in the country with Guardian. And today, as a general agent, he helps brokers nationwide navigate GSI programs and avoid the same timing mistakes he's watched repeat themselves for decades. In this episode, we're breaking down how GSI programs work, why residency is such an important window for securing coverage, and one critical detail many physicians never hear: applying for disability insurance elsewhere may void their opportunity to access GSI. So welcome, Steve.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure. So before we get into the timing and the nitty-gritty about GSI, let's just first start about talking about why disability insurance matters so much for residents and fellows and while they're in training.
Sure. It's a question that, as you know, we get all the time. When it all comes down to it, I think there are just really some basic reasons to purchase while in residency or in your fellowship. Number one, you're never going to be as healthy as you are today. As we get older, things break, things go off kilter, and you're just never going to be healthier than you are today. And that's a big part of buying disability insurance. But the two primary reasons, especially now, are you can secure discounts that are not available after training. And those discounts can be up to 30% off, and that's a permanent discount. Stays with you through age 65 or age 67 or until you retire. That if you wait until after you're done training, you're going to just pay a larger premium for the rest of your life. And number two, especially with hospitals where Guardian has a GSI offer, it's your one and only chance to buy disability insurance with no medical questions asked. And that's a big deal. Most people think, oh, diabetics or people with cancer history or something severe. It's a big deal for everybody. It could be somebody who just takes ADHD med or anti-anxiety or antidepressant medication, or maybe you had a pregnancy complication in the past. It's also a big deal for those of us who like more extreme activities like skydiving, scuba diving, rock climbing, mountain climbing. Uh, that could prevent you from getting disability insurance to be excluded from coverage. With GSI, all that's covered.
So
Soup to
maybe
nuts.
kind of take a step back and explain what exactly is GSI.
Sure. GSI stands for Guaranteed Standard Issue. Uh, if you were eligible, and you brought this up in the introduction, and eligibility means that you haven't already applied with another insurance company first, it's exactly what it sounds like. We will issue a policy with no exclusions, no ratings, and you can't be declined. And that's a bigger deal in the disability insurance industry than most consumers actually realize. There was a study done by Milliman, I think in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, that showed that over 50% of people who apply for a disability insurance policy have some sort of adverse selection, meaning the insurance company could exclude something like your back because you've been to a chiropractor, complained about back pain recently. They could exclude your knees if you had ACL surgery 15 years ago. Uh, Basically, anything that's happened in the past is seen as a pre-existing condition and typically not covered. Ratings mean that there are certain medical conditions that you can't exclude, like cholesterol. So they charge you more money for the same coverage. So a policy could charge you 10% more, 25% more, 50 or even 75% more. I think it's even possible to get a 100% rating. With GSI, you're going to pay the normal rates. You're not going to have any pre-existing medical conditions excluded, and you can't be declined for any reason. You could be arguably one of the most unhealthy people on the planet as long as you're in training and still remain eligible because you didn't apply with your college roommate's friend who happens to work for another major mutual
So
company.
maybe explain how that works. So let's say somebody comes to us and
Sure.
they say, I applied with my college roommate's, friend, and I got a policy and I got an exclusion on my elbow.
Sure. Unfortunately, that does mean that you're no longer eligible for the GSI. So it's one of the reasons why what you're doing here, Jamie, is so powerful. You're getting the word out. Every year we go to the ACGME conference simply to ask all the program directors and education coordinators for help getting the word out because, as you know, it's kind of heartbreaking, some of the stories that we hear.
Hmm.
Some of the stories that I've heard are really just absolutely twist your heart because you and I both know this is their one and only chance that they're ever going to have to secure a top tier disability insurance contract with medical specialty language protecting their specific medical specialty with no questions asked, regardless of their health history.
So if
And
somebody did have cancer in the last year and they get a
mhm,
GSI policy and they have a claim in the first year, is that covered?
sure is.
Okay.
Sure is.
So
Yeah.
everything is from day one. There's no waiting period and there's no look back.
We should probably talk a little more specific about that. There's really four, but there's really three major disability insurance carriers today that offer guaranteed standard issue offers in specific hospitals. Um, One of them is Mass Mutual, and I think they only have two left that I know of.
Hmm.
I believe that's at Mississippi, and there's a hospital in New York. I think it's Montefiore, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Guardian has about 200 at most of the premier hospitals nationwide. Standard, I think, has about less than 15.
Okay.
And Emeritus, if the last time I counted, was around 54, 55 hospitals. So I look at Emeritus and Standard as our premier competitors in the GSI marketplace. And both of them have what's called a pre-existing condition factor into their GSI policy. Guardian, there is no pre-existing condition limitation. So with them, I believe it's a 312. So they look back, and if you've had that condition within the past 3 months, it's not protected.
Is it the past 3 months of the claim or is it the past 3 months of getting the policy?
I
So
believe
me,
it's
so like kind of
yeah.
explain how this works. So again, somebody comes and they had cancer last year, they get a GSI policy. How long in those policies would they need to wait until that claim would be covered?
I'm not exactly 100% sure I'm the expert to answer that question for
Yeah.
Standard or Emeritus, so I don't want to put
But if
anything
it's
out
a
there that's not
2 year look
accurate.
back, it might
Yeah.
mean that 2 years from the date of the policy, that condition would not be covered because they had been previously treated.
As I understand it, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it works with group policies. So if you have a policy
Yep.
through your employer, there's a 2 year look back. So if you sign up for a group coverage, you're starting at an employer and you file a claim immediately, they might look back and say you were already being treated in the last 2 years. That's not a covered
Exactly.
condition. If you get into a car accident, however, day one it's covered because that's not
Absolutely.
pre-existing. Okay.
Yep.
Now, explain a little bit. So you just mentioned how you have it at all these hospitals around the country. Explain how it's tied to hospitals as opposed to maybe there's somebody, who may or may not have access to it. Explain how
Sure.
that works.
So we spent a little bit of time already talking about eligibility. The reason that there is an eligibility factor is any insurance company to get into the guaranteed standard issue marketplace is a scary proposition. We aren't the first company to be in the guaranteed issue marketplace. We've been doing it for a little over 15 years now. At Guardian, we're not new to this. We've just really stepped on the gas pedal in the last few years in a big way. But we've done this, what I believe, intelligently, looking at the business and learning from predecessors who got into the GSI business and then back out of the GSI business because I think they were a little too aggressive. Uh, the reason we have that eligibility rule is for GSI to work, one company needs to get the majority of the business from that hospital. We know there's going to be some sick people. We know depending on the size of the hospital, odds are there's going to be some claims very early on.
Hmm.
I know, as an example, one of the larger teaching hospitals that has a location in Florida and Arizona and Minnesota, if you get my drift, we
Hmm.
paid two claims in the first year.
Hmm.
And we're happy to do it because we also did well over 100 other people who were healthy and didn't file a
Is
claim
that
immediately.
similar to medically underwritten risk, though?
It's no, it's not similar to medically underwritten. I mean, you're certainly taking on a little bit more risk with those people.
No, but are the odds, I mean, the chances are at a hospital, a rural
Oh,
hospital
oh,
that
yes,
had
I'm
that where they did all of the underwriting, they could still have, 2 out of 100 claims.
sure. I mean, insurance
Yeah,
companies price for about 50% claims experience. So, when you're only paying two claims out of 125 lives that we wrote there, I think that's actually
that's
better
pretty low. Yeah,
performance. Yeah.
yeah.
But the reality is what we can't allow and I'm not just talking about Guardian, I'm talking about any insurance company. What the insurance company cannot allow is for an insurance agent or a client to say, hey, I'm in this specialty or this specialty. I happen to hear that XYZ company costs 5% less for anesthesiology and ABC company charges 10% more for internal medicine. We can't let people cherry pick because what ends up happening is the company with the guaranteed issue offer ends up with all the medical problem cases, while other carriers who may be a percentage or two less in some other medical specialties get the large majority of people that are healthy.
So
Well,
you're talking about adverse risk selection. So for
exactly,
somebody who has a bunch of clients and somebody comes to them and they're diabetic, oh, go get the guaranteed standard issue. But
exactly,
this person's super healthy. I'm going to, go with another policy elsewhere. So I'm only going to send the unhealthy people into that pool.
exactly.
So that's an adverse risk selection.
And that's why what you're doing here is so powerful because the more people who know about the rules, we don't expect an average resident or fellow to understand what guaranteed standard issue rules are. We do expect that the producers who are involved in this marketplace learn and understand those rules as you do, uh, but not everybody does, unfortunately. So when we mentioned earlier about how heartbreaking it is to hear the horror stories of somebody who went online, went to Google and typed in disability insurance for residents and accidentally applied with another carrier because they didn't know the rules. That insurance agent may or may not have known the rules, but now they've precluded them from ever being able to get a guaranteed standard issue offer, their one and only chance to ever do so. So that's why we need, not only your help, but even the help of the residents and fellows and
Mhm.
the education coordinators and program directors and even the GME office to get the word out. Hey, this is out there. We don't necessarily need their endorsement. We just want help to get the word out to protect the residents and fellows from themselves through
So,
no
in
fault of
your
their own.
experience,
Yeah.
what percentage of these hospitals, the residents and fellows at these hospitals, are taking advantage of these programs?
Sure. So we're recording this in early February right now. We just got the year-end numbers from 2025, and nationwide, Guardian did, I think it was 10,700 residents and fellows, 9,700 if you take out the dental business.
Mhm.
And that equated to about 30, I think it was 39.7, if I'm not mistaken, 39.7% of residents and fellows at hospitals where Guardian has a GSI offer bought a Guardian disability policy.
So they're doing a good job getting the word out so
Yep,
far, and taking advantage of this. So let's go back. So if we're talking to residents, residents are hearing this going, I wasn't really aware. What are these policies? Are they, what's in the policy? How much can I get? Talk
sure.
a little bit about what the
So
policy provides.
we see, I'm seeing on a national level really a few basic models. Uh, the one that I like to see the most is when a PGY1 buys a disability insurance policy early. And typically what I see is they'll buy a small base policy of $2,500 a month with a benefit purchase rider on top of that using our graded premium schedule, which is half the cost of a normal level premium. And they're paying $30 to $40 a month to secure their income forever. And
Now,
then,
again, it's true on occupation.
yep,
So it's going to
true on
cover them in their
occupation.
specialty. It's going to have partial disability, cost of living rider. And then maybe explain a little bit about the benefit purchase. Is it the same as somebody who goes through medical underwriting?
Sure. In terms of the ability to scale up when you start making attending income, there's two ways. You can use the benefit purchase rider, or you can use the future increase option rider. The future increase option rider is a little more expensive, but it allows you to increase your coverage every year whenever your income goes up. And you can get that up to a maximum. With GSI, the base benefit plus the future increase option cannot surpass $15,000 a month. And that covers most physicians' incomes. Most people making 250, 350, 400,000 will be covered by $15,000 a month.
And that's without a group policy. If they have a group policy, they'd even be eligible for less
Correct.
for
Now,
their
if you're in a
employers.
specialty like plastic surgery or a very high income medical specialty, you may need more than 15,000 of coverage, but the GSI limits at 15,000. The BPR
Yeah.
option instead of FIO is much less expensive. So if you buy it while in training, you can reduce the cost using the BPR rider. The only difference is you have to apply for that increase every 3 years. And if
Mhm.
you don't apply for the increase every 3 years, you lose that option. So that's why it's so much less expensive. You only get the option every 3 years, and you have to apply for it every year or every 3 years, or you lose it.
So somebody who, like you said, let's say an orthopedic surgeon, this would go up to 15,000. They could, on top of that, get another policy with the medical underwriting. However, timing is
Yes.
important. Get the GSI first, because if you apply for the medic, even if they're doing both and they do the medical one simultaneously or first, and there's anything in there, it could void the opportunity of the GSI.
Yeah. When we see higher income specialties, a lot of them will buy 14,500 of coverage using the FIO rider.
Hmm.
So maybe 5,000 of base with another 4,500 of FIO, or excuse me, 10,400 of FIO. And then they'll do a small $500 a month policy with the BPR fully
Yeah.
underwritten. That
Yeah.
way they
Or
can
I do
secure
like
up to
4,000
100,000.
GSI and 1,000 of fully
Yep.
underwritten, and then they can get up to the full amount.
It's
But
and
the
more
timing
importantly, you get the
matters. Yeah.
discount forever.
Yeah,
That's the most important
exactly.
part.
So, what do you say to people that are listening and they're saying, because you were talking about PGI ones, that's great, but what if they're like, I'm just so busy, I'm working 80 hours a week. I'll just wait until I'm at the end of
Yeah.
residency. I've got a couple of years, I can't afford this. What do you say to those people?
Sure. Number one, that is a very scary gamble to take because you really are gambling that you're going to be able to use this offer 2 years from now. What people don't understand is every insurance company pulls GSI offers every year. We just pulled three not more than 2 weeks ago. That Guardian didn't want they didn't hit the participation rates. So Guardian pulled back the offer. They gave new ones out to other hospitals. But just in the last 4 years, I can rattle off 10 programs that are no longer here just
Hmm.
with Guardian. Emeritus, I don't know what their number was officially, but I know in the last 2 years has reduced the number of programs they have substantially.
And same with mass.
Standard,
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
So to make the mistake that I'll just wait until I graduate is a huge gamble because you don't know that the GS offer will be there when you graduate. And for $30 or $40 a month, you can lock it in your first year. And even if Guardian pulls the GSI offer, you're good to go forever because it's a non-cancelable policy. You've taken advantage of it.
Yeah.
So
And that's
it's
what a lot of
important.
people don't realize. It's once you have your policy, you're grandfathered in. No one can touch it.
Yep,
And it can go
absolutely.
with you. And a lot of people ask this question, it goes with you throughout your career. So if you're moving, as most people do, into different states, it stays with you and all the policy language is still in there.
And you're paying a premium based upon, say, a 28-year-old forever, rather than paying a premium based upon a 30-year-old forever. So you'll
Exactly.
save money, you'll save some money over time as well. I mean, there's every incentive in the world to buy a GSI policy in your first year and not wait until graduation. I understand coming out of pocket 30, 40, or $50 a month isn't the ideal scenario, but you're really talking about guaranteeing your income protection forever. And
Hmm.
that's just something that should be worth it for everybody. And don't make the mistake. It's the worst feeling in the world when somebody says, "Oh, I was going to get that in 2 months," and they find out on February 2nd that that GSI offer is no longer on the table. And the insurance company doesn't give a warning. If they gave a
Really?
warning,
So
then
they could just pull it mid-month and as of today,
it's
it's
that
gone.
quickly.
So
Yep.
somebody had already had a proposal and they were thinking about it, it's gone.
It's gone. And they do that because if they gave a warning, there would be a fire sale of every person with any type of medical issue buying the disability insurance policy because they're about to lose it. And that would be really bad if you're an insurance company for claims. So when they pull a GSI offer, it's instantaneous. They just stop
Hmm.
and you can't, there's no grace period whatsoever.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a break. I have to write down the time. 11:26. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what changes after training and why timing matters. Okay. Welcome back, Steve Crawford. We're here talking with Steve. He is the foremost expert about GSI policies in the country. So I'm really excited to have him here today. So let's talk a little bit about the people who don't take advantage of GSI. They knew about it, or maybe they didn't know about it. Now they're attending. What's the difference between getting it as a resident, getting it as an attending?
Well, if you're getting it as attending, you're going to have to go fully underwritten. And when you go fully underwritten, that's just a whole different process because they are going to make you take a full application. They're going to look at all of your medical records. They're going to look at every prescription that you have ever taken in your entire life. And it's a 2 month process to go through the underwriting to buy disability insurance as an attending, unless you are lucky enough to be at one of the select few hospitals that has what we refer to as a multi-life disability insurance offer, which is like GSI for attendings, but those are quite few and far between.
I've rarely, in my 30 plus years, I don't think I've ever come across one of those.
Yeah,
They're
there's a
really
few of
rare.
them. There's
Yeah.
one at Georgetown, there's one at UNC. I
Hmm.
think there's a few other, I think Cleveland
I
Clinic
know
has
like
one.
at Kaiser, sometimes you can buy up on your individual policy, but I don't think it's nearly as comprehensive.
And it's very
Yeah.
uncommon. Like there's
Yeah.
just most of these don't exist anymore. Uh,
And if somebody's applying for more than 10,000, they also have to do labs.
yes.
So there's
Yep.
that. And then
It,
the other thing too is if somebody's doing locum work and they don't have an income pattern, they sometimes have to wait. They can't
correct.
just get it. So you have to, so there's the financial component too. So if they're starting a practice and they, maybe they don't have an income yet, or they're doing locum work and their income is erratic, that can be a roadblock as well for getting the
Yeah.
coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the end, it's just, when you buy during training, it's sometimes we get policies issued and paid for the same day.
Hmm.
It could be a 24 to 48 hour turnaround. It's a very quick and easy process. If you wait until after you're in attending, A, you lose the student resident discount. So you're just going to pay 10% more for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
And B, it's typically a 1 to 2 month process to go through underwriting. And anything that's gone wrong with you in the past will probably be excluded.
Hmm.
Migraines, musculoskeletal disorders, anything related to anxiety, depression, typically going to be an exclusion. Uh,
And one of the things that I've come across quite a bit lately are women who are freezing their eggs. They get
okay.
pregnancy exclusions on their policy, even though they're not pregnant. And it's unfortunate, but from the company's perspective, they look at it saying, you're going to be at risk. If and when we implant these, you're going to be high risk. So any types of things like that could also impede your ability to get a really clean policy.
Yeah, it's most people don't, I get it. Like I'm the king of trying to put things off too that I don't necessarily want to do. I don't think anybody in training woke up in the morning and said, "Hey, I can't wait to buy my disability insurance today." I get it. But when you put it off until you're in attending, it's really just a bad move. And there's
Well,
no
and
other
the
way to
thing
say
is,
it.
I mean, from my experience, residents all know about disability insurance. They all know they need to get it. It's a matter of when they're going to get it, not if they're going to get it. And so
Yep.
taking advantage of, during training just makes all the sense. I mean, people kick themselves when they don't do that. Now, what do you say to people? I mean, I get people all the time that come to me and they don't have GSI at their hospital. I mean, we've got some small hospitals here in Denver. We've got, I've got people all over the country that are in hospital systems where they don't have access to GSI.
Sure. I mean, the reality is if they don't have access to GSI, it's not like we can make one appear quickly, but we can always start to work with the hospital administration to try to implement one the following year.
Hmm.
Typically, the insurance companies don't roll them out throughout the year. They typically roll them out on January 1st each year and then look at the full year's worth of data to decide if they're going to re-enroll that one the following year or if they're going to close it down and to see where they want to open up new GSI opportunities the following year.
Is it
Guard,
harder for smaller hospitals just because of participation? I mean, I'm just thinking about there's a hospital here in Denver and they have four residency programs. They've got like family medicine, OB, surgery, and I think that's it, or maybe internal medicine. It's really small. They maybe have 60 residents a year.
it's not harder, in my opinion, to get a GSI based upon the size of the hospital. From an insurance company point of view, they just really want to know that they're going to get the participation. For one to be successful with Guardian, they want to see that at least 40% of the graduating residents are buying a Guardian policy every year. That's the ultimate goal.
Hmm.
Because they're spreading the risk out and they're like, okay, this is getting the participation. What they don't want is to make a GSI offer at any institution and they end up with three policies written. Because odds are those three policies are people that
It's
really
the
need the
adverse risk
GSI
selection.
and
Yep.
you end up with adverse selection. So Whenever we make an application for a new GSI with Guardian, there's two ways we can do it. Number one, if the GME office will sign a simple document that says, we're happy you're here. We get it. We know a lot of major institutions don't want to endorse a third party. They don't want to endorse, administer, affiliate, or sponsor any third party. The
Hmm.
hospital gets sued every day and twice on Sunday. They don't need any more problems than they already have. Guardian understands that. So they don't require an endorsement or a sponsorship to do a GSI program at that hospital. We handle all of it completely independently, and we market directly to the residents and fellows and those types. So one way we can bypass all of that and institute a GSI quickly is if the GMA office will sign a document that says, we're happy you're here. We
Hmm.
like this. We think it's a great thing for our house staff. And maybe we'll even help you by giving you a list of the residents a couple times a year, sending out an email, letting them know about the opportunity. That's the fastest way, from my opinion, to put in a new GSI opportunity.
So we can come from the resident, maybe a resident's at a hospital saying, hey, I really want to get this. What do we need to do?
But it's typically got to come from the GME office. Like a
Mhm.
resident itself wouldn't be enough to sign that
But they
document.
might they can contact the GME office and say, hey,
Sure.
I really
Yeah,
want to get this.
absolutely.
Okay.
And
Now,
enough of them do it.
what about somebody who's just listening and saying, I have no idea if I have a GSI. This sounds great, but I work at XYZ hospital.
Yep.
How do I find out if I have access to this?
Oh, there's a bunch. There's a few websites. Just my website has a page that's not the most comprehensive, but it's one of the larger lists out there. If you go to disabilityquotes.com/GSI, that is a laundry list of, I think it's close to 180 hospitals where we have an active GSI and we keep it up to date.
Hmm.
There are about 35 to 40 more hospitals where Guardian has a GSI that is not listed on that because the producer didn't want them listed on that page for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Emeritus has a list, but I don't think they publish it to the public. Standard, there is actually a list on a browser that you can check. If you just search standard GSI programs, it will show you the hospitals where
Could a
they
resident just contact their GME and say, hey, do we have this? How do I get it?
They could, but I don't know that the GME would know, to be honest.
Okay.
Some
So it's
GMEs would
really
know,
through.
some of them wouldn't know.
Okay.
Like we just put a new one in at a hospital in Chicago 2 days ago,
Hmm.
and I guarantee you nobody in the GME even knows about it yet
Yeah.
because we just did it independently. So I think the best way to do it would be to go to disabilityquotes.com/GSI or just do a search on Google. My hospital name, GSI Disability Insurance, and see if anything comes up.
And
Because
what about somebody, like you said, they're working with their roommate's best friend's cousin, and that guy, they really want to work with him. Does that broker have access to it? I mean, is it something that every broker can do?
Yeah, that's one of the problems. The answer to that question is no. You and I have known each other for a very long time. We've been in this business for a very long time. Insurance companies tend to give GSI offers to producers that have a long track record of success of doing things the right way with that insurance company. These are what I refer to as being earned. You have
Hmm.
to earn the right to be able to offer guaranteed standard issue to a resident or fellow, especially at major institutions. They're not just giving this offer away to anybody. So you obviously have access to quite a few hospitals. There's other producers who have access to quite a few as well. But that's the thing. Not every insurance agent is created equal, and
Hmm.
not
So,
every
so what
insurance
you're
agent,
saying is they're vetted. You're
yeah, they're
saying that
vetted.
you have to
Yep.
go through a vetted person who knows what they're doing. And from the insurance company's perspective, they want a vetting process because they want to make sure this is being done properly. And then from the resident's perspective or the customer's perspective, you want to work with somebody who knows what they're doing so it's set up properly. So
Yes.
that part of the process is really important. So even though you're really attached to your, best friend's cousin or whatever, they may not be providing you with something that's going to be in your best interest. You might
Yeah.
want to still look into the GSI and say, look, as a consumer, this is what's best for me. I better go and find this.
And it's important to say that person who was introduced to you may not know the rules. They're not. I'd like to think that not every insurance agent, actually, I know not every insurance agent understands the rules for GSI.
Hmm.
So a lot of people who have unfortunately ended up hurting people didn't know they did. They're not being malicious. the worst kind of people from my perspective are the people who know the GSI rules and don't care and have people apply with other companies anyway.
That's
That
almost dangerous. Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
dangerous, and that's
Yeah.
that's the part where I have a serious problem with those people. But I don't fault the resident for not knowing the GSI, and I certainly don't fault the average agent from a major mutual company who's barely even in the disability insurance business from not knowing it either. That's
Yeah.
an honest mistake, which is why podcasts like this and anybody who's helping getting the word out to help residents take care of themselves and each other, because they're making these mistakes, but they're doing it through no fault of their own. So
Hmm.
it's really important that we get this word out so that everybody knows about it.
So maybe tell us like one of the to kind of wrap this up, let's talk about a story, maybe tell us one success story and one horror story when it
Oh,
comes to GSI.
yeah, I know
Let's
the
start with
horror
the
side.
success story first.
I mean, the success stories are every day. It's when you talk to somebody who's in training who has a serious medical condition. I'm actually a type 1 diabetic myself,
Hmm.
so I love being able to offer coverage to other diabetics because
Hmm.
otherwise there is no chance we're ever getting disability insurance. So when I
Hmm.
talk to a trainee who's a diabetic and we make that connection over living with that, it just makes my hair stand on right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Uh, I enjoy helping
Yeah.
people like that.
I had one last week that I wrote, and she had childhood cancer, and she's now an oncologist. So her whole life is all about cancer and helping others with
Yep.
cancer. And so she was so excited to get this. Again, she had childhood cancer. Could she go out and get it medically underwritten? Why even try to find out? Who it doesn't matter. Let's just get
Yep.
you the policy. And so she wants to tell all the other, oncologists in her training program
The
about
other
it.
success stories that I like are there is one loophole to people who have applied with other companies first, and that's during your first 9 months of training at a hospital, you're still eligible for the GSI even if you had already applied elsewhere first. So if you just start, you did your residency at one hospital and do a fellowship at another, during those first 9 months, even if you had accidentally applied with another carrier and got declined or had a exclusion or a rating, you're still eligible for the GSI during your fellowship during those first 9 months there.
So let's talk about that because match day is coming up. And so let's say somebody is matching. They find out that they're going to be working at a hospital. Should that person immediately figure out if their new hospital is going to have GSI and then maybe wait and get that? Like we talked about the risk of waiting, but does it make sense for somebody, they find out that they match, maybe they're in medical school where they're not getting a policy yet, or maybe
Yep.
they're at a non-GSI hospital. Maybe talk about that timing.
So if I were recently matched and I found out I was going to a hospital that had a GSI, specifically one with Guardian, I might apply with Guardian and just have the policy issued on a specific date after, because you can't issue the policy until you're actually in training and there's an income to protect.
So if they're
So,
starting, technically July 1, but maybe June 26th, they
yep,
could apply in April and just have a June 26th effective date.
correct.
But they don't need to have the address yet of their new residence address or anything else yet, do they?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You could just
All
use your
right.
current home address and the business
So
address
now
we
they're,
already know.
they're living in, Colorado, but they're moving to Wisconsin. They
Yep,
know that University of Wisconsin has a GSI. They're able to, sort of post date it. So,
absolutely.
okay. And the same goes for fellowships too. Is there any difference, again, for people that are listening, between residency and fellowship when it comes to GSI?
Oh, yes. So typically with your fellowship, we can issue a higher amount.
Hmm.
So we'll do up to eight thousand a month. But during residency, we'll typically limit you up to 5,000 a month unless you have an employment agreement
Hmm.
that shows a higher
Or if you're
income
in your
level.
last 6 months.
Correct.
Or if
Yes.
you're in your last 6 months of residency, you could actually get up to eight. Is it 8,000 now or is it 7,500
We're
still?
up to 8,000 now.
We're up to 8,000. So if you're in your last 6 months, so like right now, the graduating class of 26 can now get up to 8,000 as a resident.
Correct.
But what about somebody's doing like a 3-year fellowship? Is it 8,000 during all of fellowship or is it just the end of fellowship?
I believe it's just during the end of fellowship.
Okay, so they're still 5,000 during fellowship.
Correct.
During their last 6 months, they could increase it.
Yep.
So, and they can, and again, for people listening, you can increase it even if you don't have a contract signed yet. Even if you're still looking, you don't have to have,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
just you can automatically get that amount. which might be, more than what you might be eligible than if you wait. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Now
okay.
the horror story, on the other hand, you had me racking my brain on it. I could think of one horror story. I'm going to try to change some names up just to protect the innocent. Um, there was a resident physician who had multiple pregnancy complications, multiple changes in anxiety and depressant medication within the last 6 months. So clearly adjustments were being made. Was at a hospital with a GSI offer from Guardian, went online and Googled disability insurance and applied with an online vendor. Uh, I'm not going to name the school. She was a shooting survivor from a major
Oh,
college shooting. So
hmm.
like she had all the reasons.
Yeah, PTSD and yeah.
Yeah. And because she applied online with another carrier, was no longer eligible for the GSI offer. And it breaks your heart to hear stuff
Hmm.
like that
So
on
so she either got declined elsewhere, or
Mhm.
even if she was able to get a policy, it's going to have a
No,
lot of
she was
exclusions.
straight declined, so she
Yeah.
is completely ineligible for GSI. She lost her one and only chance to ever buy disability insurance because some online vendor either didn't know the rules or knew the rules and didn't care,
Yeah.
and had it tried to apply for somebody that you and I both know would never get a disability insurance policy going through full underwriting.
Yeah. So
And
somebody like that, she's going to have to rely on group disability insurance, which is not going to be nearly as comprehensive.
correct. Yep.
And
And
chances
arguably
are
not
she
going to be as
might
high.
need to file a claim, you know?
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's really,
and unfortunately, especially during the graduation season, when a lot of residents do wait until the end to buy their disability insurance, that's when we get all these horror stories all at once. I mean, it does happen through the year. We do see a larger volume, in April, May, and June, right before graduation. But in the end, it's just I don't think most people realize how inexpensive a policy is to buy in your first year, because with graded premiums, they're half the cost.
hmm.
And you can do a small $2,500 a month policy with BPR and protect your income forever and not have to worry that
Yeah.
Guardian or any other carrier is going to pull their GSI
Even in
offer
your
for the
last
next two
6 months, you
years.
can still buy 2,500 a month and just to have
Yeah.
something just to lock it in. And then when the dust settles, then you can adjust the policy accordingly.
Yeah.
So,
And I understand money's tight during training. But $30, $40 a month, hopefully you can swing and just know that you've got the best coverage you're ever going to have at the lowest rates you're ever going to pay with the most discounts you'll ever possibly have.
without
It's
any limitations.
with no
Yes.
limitations. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And without having to go through that whole underwriting process. Yes.
And it doesn't cost any more than a normally fully underwritten policy. The only differences between Guardian's GSI and a fully underwritten policy is we don't offer the age 70 benefit period on GSI policies, and we don't offer the serious illness supplement on GSI
Hmm.
policies. And then GSI coverage, we limit benefits to 2 years for mental and nervous instead of fully underwritten.
Hmm.
So if you're fully underwritten with Guardian for some medical specialties, not all, you can get unlimited mental and nervous coverage.
Hmm.
That's the only downside to GSI. So I see the articles that you see online about people comparing GSI and fully underwritten and saying it charges more. That's just blatantly
That's just not
false.
true. It's
Yeah,
totally not true.
factually inaccurate. So those are the
Yeah.
only three differences between GSI and fully underwritten with Guardian. I'm not going to speak to what Standard or Ameritas does.
Yeah. And in some specialties, the Guardian policy or some policies might be a little bit more expensive than others, but it really comes down to what you're getting and the value. You shouldn't only look at the price tag. This is not, you're not shopping for something it's something you should really take seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Steve. It was great having you here on the show. We appreciate it. And if people want to find out if they have a GSI at their hospital, they could go to disabilityquotes.com/GSI, or they could reach out to us. We're happy to discuss it with them as well.
Last
So
time I
thanks,
checked,
Steve.
you have quite a few programs listed on setforlifeinsurance.com too,
Yes. Yes,
right?
we do have quite a few programs. And if it's not listed on our website, we will find out if they're available and we'll get it for them. So we've helped people with a lot of other hospitals as well. So,
Perfect. Thank you,
all right,
Jamie.
thank you. Today's conversation was with Steve Crawford, who partners with brokers across the country on GSI programs and brings decades of experience working with residents and fellows as they make early income protection decisions.